Well, it took me a few days to get to chapter 13. I actually recorded it and something happened and I have to redo it. No. Wait, no edits. No edits. Okay. Chapter 13. This one has a lot of comic book in it that I'll be skipping over, and maybe I'll scan it. It's a lot of work. Anyway, let's see. Where are we? Chapter 13. Chapter 13 of the Gospel According to Superman. Clark, take off your clothes. Clark Kent is a nice guy, but he doesn't do anything for anybody except in those rare moments when he simply has no time to change into Superman. He is usually a rather bland, retiring sort of chap, working the 9-to-5 shift within a comfortable bureaucracy, doing his job and not making any waves. He is the kind of person a company would be glad to hire, though perhaps it might hesitate about promoting him too high up the ladder. He is what we might call the typical working man. His life, as we know it, revolves around work. Where he lives, what kind of car he drives, whether or not he goes to church are unimportant compared to the central fact that he is a mild-mannered person, nice to have around the office. Kent is the link to us. He is typical. He is Dad. He is most of us will be when we grow up. But we really wish we could be Superman, or at least have a Superman around to work for us. It was not uncommon on the playground 2.5 decades ago for my friends and me to take turns being Superman, running around as if flying to do deeds that were daring in our minds. It is food for thought whether these same wishes are not carried now far into adolescence, as we see young people in open rebellion against the Clark Kents of our society, while at the same time aping some of Captain Marvel's or Batman's or Superman's antics, flying in their minds, aided by hallucinatory drugs. Superman is our dream projected self. The feeling about our nature is one so basic to human experience that the writers of the Bible incorporated it almost immediately. In the first 2 chapters of Genesis, there are 2 completely different accounts of how the world began and how people were created. In the first tale, man is created in the image of God, the pinnacle of a cosmic creation. What great, unfathomable possibilities we have as God's highest creative achievement. Then, as if starting all over again, the second account describes man being created from the dust of the ground like any other animal. We sense ourselves lucky to have a better lot than dogs. And there's some comic book here. It is that old feeling that popularity put in the phrase, "We dream of being perfect, but we are afraid we are not even average." Genesis 1 offers us the dream of being perfect, the Superman. Genesis 2 is the fear of not being even the average Clark Kent. In the office of the Daily Planet, the relationship between these 2 natures is revealed. What we find is not surprising, though perhaps a bit disappointing. The phone rings. It's Jimmy. He is at a phone booth 50 miles outside of Metropolis. The baddies have captured Miss Lane and they are coming after him. "Mr. Kent, help!" There is a sound of a scuffle and the phone is hung up. Using his telescopic vision, Kent looks all the way out to the spot by the road where the crooks are dragging Jimmy to their car. This looks like a job for Superman. He dashes behind his desk, down the hall to the door of the storeroom. With a look this way and that to make sure no one will spot him, quickly he slips into the room. Our young eyes are spared the embarrassment of watching the mild-mannered reporter disrobe. The next sequence is Superman bounding through the window. Then we see him stretched out against the skyline of the city as he flies over it. How much time do you suppose Clark Kent could have saved if he had cut out all the monkey business about taking off his clothes? He could have raced to the window and, necktie flapping in the breeze, gained at least a 60-second head start. When you are traveling faster than a speeding bullet, that is quite a long time. For the purpose of Superman Kent, which is, as we have already mentioned, is to serve the other employees at the Daily Planet, it is most convenient to perpetuate this little charade. If people knew where Superman was, he would be besieged by requests for help. Jesus himself was often so swamped by the needs of the mobs that pressed around him he had to skip meals to keep on with the work. Some interpreters even suggest that he told those whom he had helped not to tell anyone what had happened for the express reason that he wanted to be able to get away from that place without being inundated with other pleas for help. Clark Kent is able to hold down the fort and be at the office phone in case a call comes in from one of the Superman's constituents demanding immediate, exclusive attention. So the stage is set for the high point of the drama. The rescue is almost matter-of-fact, like a machine grinding away at its appointed task. Significantly, Superman is a man of steel, but the process that starts him on his way is most interesting. Kent receives the message. Then this same typical you and me sort of fellow made of the dust of the earth becomes our ideal, our dream, an image like God. Vulnerability puts on invulnerability. Now he is ready to serve his fellow man. The implications are many. This whole book is something of a comment upon the theme of vulnerability and invulnerability. Let us look at just two more points. Number 1, morals. What do we suppose Jesus meant when he said to take up our crosses and follow him? Each of us has a cross to bear in personal life. Some of us have several crosses. Jesus is telling us not to run away from them, but to face them, deal with them, carry them, shoulder our responsibilities even when the weight of them seems more than we can bear. A few years ago, campus demonstrators lost quite a bit of face with would-be sympathizers when they made amnesty a key issue of their movement. Whether one is for granting amnesty or not, it is a curious ethic that demands the freedom to rob the cookie jar without getting spanked. If demonstrators and war resistors are thought to be helping our country in the long run, the business of granting amnesty should be brought up and pushed by their supporters within the larger community. Their personal witness registers a flat 0 on the scales of many when these demonstrators themselves riot for the sake of their own amnesty. An ethic that is not willing to be vulnerable is no ethic at all. Yet for so many people, the shape of what is right and wrong in our society is determined by what will protect me from them. At a public hearing in a suburban community a few years ago, it was debated whether or not to bus inner-city children to the suburban school district. Since the intent of this completely voluntary program was racial exposure and sharing, it was assumed most of the inner-city kids would be black. The suburban community, needless to say, went into collective cardiac arrest. At the overflow hearing, one man stood and shouted, "Them people is violent. If any of them tries anything with my kid, I'll blow their heads off." Such is the mind of the fine upstanding citizens who structures his morality on the basis of self-protection and invulnerability. Incidentally, the speaker at the hearing sat down to a thunderous ovation. The problem is no better solved by the liberal who is appalled at this kind of racism. The liberal of the living room variety has attended many a discussion group, read many a book, and is admittedly well informed. Alas, when the chips are down, liberalism too often offends where the liberal's driveway begins, while Christianity travels all the way to the cross. Meanwhile, back at the protest, a demonstrator seems to have two messages to convey. A, you, and that you may be the government, the school administration, the establishment, are wrong. B, you do something about it. Both of these messages are carefully worded to keep the hands of the demonstrators free from any responsibility. Okay, Mr. President, give us peace. We have no idea how to do it, but then why should we? It is your job to come up with ways to find peace. Significantly, these messages are couched in a new kind of medium. It is assumed that if enough people are in protest, the individual will be protected. There are just not enough jails to house all of them, which may be a blessing. Our purpose is not to pass judgment on any of these contemporary issues. The point is rather to expose the non-ethic of avoiding vulnerability. Clark Kent looks vulnerable, though in fact he is steel, and we know it. He looks as though a solid left hook to his jaw would land him in the hospital, glasses shattered and chin smashed. It is necessary for the new image of invulnerability to emerge before action can take place. Jesus of Nazareth went to his death because he did not wait for amnesty before challenging the spirits and ways of men. There's very little actual reform and human betterment that can take place as long as the disciples of Jesus Christ begin their discipleship by trying to protect themselves. We need a new and courageous being in the one who gave his life for us. Number 2, commitment. There is a widespread misconception of what it means to come to Christ. People somehow assume they must be better people than they are before they can come to Jesus. It is as though we have to go through a spiritual ritual like Clark Kent's in the storeroom, becoming a pious Superman before God will have us. Jesus must have had a great deal of sensitivity to this problem. He told a story of 2 men entering the temple. One of the men went to the altar and prayed, "Lord, thank you for making me so good." The other bowed humbly in the corner, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." Jesus said this latter man was heard by God. Some since have tried to manipulate the process, praying, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner," while all the time thinking, "Aren't I great for praying the right prayer? Thank you, Lord, for making me so good." There is nothing phony about the man bowed in the corner. He meant every word of his prayer. He realized that to feel inadequate before God need not be cause for staying away from God. Rather, it shared honestly, it can begin a new relationship. Paul wrote what may be the gospel in a nutshell. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, Romans 5:8. Christ did not wait for us to be ready for him. He gave his life for us while we were sinners. Essentially, the refusal to give our life to Christ is a failure to trust God. Some of the reasons we hear for the refusal are righteous enough in their tone, but the message is the same. I don't want to give my life to Christ for fear that I might backslide later. I don't want to give my life to Christ because I am not really sincere. I do not yet understand what this Christian faith is all about. All of these excuses are focused on one thing, the self. Of ourselves, we will never be ready, or sufficient, sincere, or informed. While we were... I got a big, more comic book. While we were unready, insecure, ignorant sinners, Christ died for us. The initiative for it all comes from God in his love. Why not trust him to lead us? Is he such an inept Lord that he would let us backslide right out of the faith? Will he not build our sincerity as he works in us? Will he not continually reveal himself to our understanding? Yes, we are spiritually vulnerable. All of us are. Jesus' disciples were. Christians, through the long history of the church, have been. We need not put on a spiritual perfection to enter the kingdom. We need to get over ourselves and what we can't do and begin to trust God and what he can do. There is a place in the kingdom for the Clark Kent in us all. Amen. Come back for chapter 14, or you can also go all the way back to the beginning and start at chapter 1.